introduced the iPhone to the world. That was the very first smartphone. Laurie's got hers bedazzled and bejeweled up in the air there. Does anyone else have a smartphone? How many are on the table? How many are actually in hands now? Everybody has got one. It completely changed the way human beings communicate. It was just a couple of months before that Mark Zuckerberg had opened up Facebook to the entire world. Before October of 2006, you had to be attending an Ivy League university to join on Facebook. But then, we all got an invite to the cool kids table. And this combination of having in our hands at fingertip access to the entire sum of the world's human knowledge, any question you could ever have is at your fingertips. Plus, a worldwide network of friends and family, communication partners, referral partners, business partners, people we might like to do business with at our fingertips. It revolutionized the way people communicate and revolutionized the way we do business. It's devastated some entire industries. Just last week, the Tennessean laid off a couple hundred people down in downtown Nashville. And I used to work in the newspaper business, so about a year and a half for the last 10 years, the Tennesseans laid off a couple of hundred people. And it's not just the newspaper, the television networks. The way we receive information has been changing. The way people are advertising has been changing. And they've been struggling to keep up with this. And it's changed the way we sell things too. Prior to 10 years ago, the sales funnel hadn't changed in about 10,000 years. 10,000 years ago, if you owned a silk shop on the Silk Road in Asia, your entire job was to set up your little stall, make it look pretty, put your best silk out in front of it, wave it in the wind, and people would walk by and go, ooh, that looks pretty. And they would just walk in. They would walk in and ask you questions because they didn't know anything about silk. They'd probably never seen silk as beautiful as yours. They didn't know how much it cost. They didn't know about the thread count. They didn't know about the 7 brave camels who had given their life to transport this across the desert from China. They had questions, and the only way they could get answers was to talk to you. They didn't know about your competition. They didn't know about your prices. They didn't know how much your stuff cost. So once you had them talking, you were in control. And that was the old sales funnel. Attention, interest, desire, and action. All you had to do was get them talking. Get them interested at the very top of the funnel, and you talk to enough of them, and it just tumbled down, and you spit out sales at the bottom. But the world changed 10 years ago. And now, if people are interested in buying silk, they don't come talk to you. If they're interested in buying almost anything, if they have questions, where do they go? They go to the phone that's in their hand. They have everything in the world they need to know in their pocket. So the communications funnel has changed because people don't come to businesses and salespeople for information anymore. 80% of all sales begin as an online search in almost every industry. They begin with an online search. That's where people are looking for information. And they research you, your reputation, your products, your prices, your competition, your cost, everything. And they research the deal almost completely, and they never reach out, they never raise their hands and go, hey, I might be interested in what you're selling. They never raise their hands as a prospect until it's time to do the deal. But this is where the good news comes in. The good news is that little device you have in your pocket is also the world's greatest device for forming human connections, for forming relationships, for forming bonds. Because the trick is when they get to the bottom of the sales funnel and they've already researched everything and they know what they're going to do, they more often than not, they end up buying because they like the salesperson, because they trust the salesperson. I work a lot in the car business, and 85% of all car sales begin as an online search. But 71% of all people who buy a car buy the car they bought because they liked the salesperson. If you're going to do the deal, you're going to have to trust the person you're doing the deal with. People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. So you've got a choice. You can sit here at the bottom of the funnel waiting for them to come out and hope when they get to your desk you can convince them to like you in whatever short, brief amount of time you've got after they've already made up their mind. Or they'll go to someone else they know, like, and trust. Or You can use that device in your pocket and go back to the top of the funnel, way down here, where they started the search anyway, online. And you start communicating with them at the beginning of their sales journey. And you provide connection and relationships with them, and you provide them with helpful content along the way to help them make the right decision, to lead them to the path you want them to take. And you form the relationship with them so when it's time for them to buy, they know, like, and trust you. Now, I got interested and excited in all this a few years back. I had a customer. He was a good customer, too. We worked together every month. Every month, like clockwork, I was doing his advertising for him. Until I called him one day. It's time to do the new ads. So I call the store. I go, hey, is Johnny in? Well, Johnny's not here. Where's Johnny? Johnny doesn't work here anymore. How can I get in touch with Johnny? We don't know. Johnny doesn't work anymore. Go away and leave us alone. Johnny had been escorted. It was one of those things. Maybe he left. It was dark. Maybe there was a security guard behind him carrying his boxes and locking the door. But he had to go, and he wasn't coming back. And the check I was used to getting from those people every month, that was gone too. Poof, like smoke. And I lost tens of thousands of dollars because I made the one big mistake that a lot of salespeople are making with what we now know is personal branding. We had never had a word for the word. The old word was just reputation, but and being people that you know, like, and trust. But I ended up getting back in touch with Johnny 3 years later. He finally called me out of the blue and said, dude, I've been looking for you all over. He said, I landed at a new dealership the week after I left the old one. And I needed someone to do my ads. I wanted you to do my ads. Now, I had done a good job of promoting my company. And if you looked online, you could find my company all day long. But Johnny didn't know. He couldn't even remember the name of my company. All he knew was that Terry did his ads. Terry was his buddy. Terry was the guy he knew, liked, and trusted. And he couldn't find Terry on the internet. He looked on Google, and Terry was invisible. I could not be found. I was flying under radar. So that's the big mistake. A lot of people don't even try to promote themselves. They fly under radar. And I was perfectly happy with that. I thought I was doing the right thing. I was keeping my private life private, and my business life professional, and I was keeping them separate. I didn't get them all mingled up. I was just doing my thing. I was working at home, flying under radar, until I found out that invisible don't pay the bills. And that was the day I went out and I registered the domain name terrylancaster.com. And I started working to make myself not invisible, because I have a rule now. If someone wants to give me a check, I want to make sure they can find me and they know where to send the check. And I have to be careful now that I can't run up any gambling debts with the mob. I can't get in trouble with them because I ain't hiding from anybody anymore. You go to Google now, 8 of the top 10 listings on the first page are me and my address and customer reviews and talking about me and my picture on the front page. And I'm not hiding from anyone. And I started this process. Google tells you right there on the front page, tells you 6 or 7 times that I help salespeople and entrepreneurs create an army of buyers who know, like, and trust you before they've ever even met you. And it tells you that in exactly those words, because that's exactly what I've trained Google to tell you, because it's exactly the story that I want you to hear. And I trained Google the same way you train a puppy to roll over and do tricks. Reward and repetition. Except Google's not interested in doggy biscuit. Google's only interested in getting one thing from you. Google wants content, and Facebook wants content. They want you to submit content to attract the eyeballs that they can use to attract advertisers. So that's all they do. They take what you spit in, they regurgitate it, they run it through their algorithms, they run it through their filters, and they put it in front of the people who are most likely to be interested in it, and then they sell advertising about that. So it's a win-win situation. You get your story told the way you want it told. They get content to provide their advertisers, and most importantly, your customers get the information they need to help make an informed decision. So I started spitting out content on terrylancaster.com. I started writing in my blog. And I started writing about the industry and doing, it wasn't trying to be salesy, just trying to provide helpful content to get my name out there and get it going through the algorithms. So I started writing on the blog, and that led to writing in some industry publications. and I got invited to speak at some industry events. And now this is about 3 or 4 years later. And since that time, I've spoken at the National Automobile Dealers Association. I've spoken at the National Association of Broadcasters. Spoken at TEDx. I've written in Dealer Marketing Magazine, Forbes Magazine. I've been featured in Automotive News, and written a bestseller book. #1 bestseller, Better Self-Help for the Rest of Us. And each step along the way, all of these things happened for one simple reason. More and more people became willing to listen to what I had to say for the simple reason that it looked like I knew what I was talking about. Perception is reality. And you are who Google says you are. So I'm going to give you a couple quick tips for telling your story on social media, on Google, so you can convince people to know, like, and trust you before they've ever even met you. #1, if you don't own the domain yourname.com, go register it today. There's nothing that attracts Google like yourname.com, and there's nothing that says suddenly you are somebody, kind of like a Ron Burgundy and Anchorman. Hey, I'm kind of a big deal. You're not just another salesperson, you are your name. And if you have your name, it elevates you as to being kind of a big deal. So take yourname.com, #1. Start creating, using the right words. Start creating content on there. And the right words to use are the 25 words that Google's going to grab to describe who you are. It's about 25 words, a snippet that they're going to pull. And if you use the right words and you put them in the right place, Google's going to use those same words over and over and over again. And you don't want to be talking about you, because your personal brand isn't about you. A lot of people, when they start off with this, they suddenly proclaim themselves to be some kind of ninja or a rock star or a guru. You say it all the time. I'm an H&R ninja. I'm a human resources ninja. I'm a financial wizard. They put all these things, but that makes it all about them, and it's not about you. It's about your customers and how you can help them. So I use what I call the micro manifesto, a 25-word description of who you are and who you help. I help who, do what. 25 words, and if you'll use that on your LinkedIn profile, and on your Facebook profile, and on your Twitter profile, at the bottom of all the content you create on your own webpage, you'll train Google to use those words, and when people Google you, Google will tell them who you are and who you help. And #3, words are good, but pictures are better. Make sure you're using exactly the right pictures. We all learned in Sales 101 that a good smile and good eye contact will close deals. Humans are hardwired to recognize faces, and they're hardwired to make snap decisions within 1/10 of a second to whether they like this face or not. Is this a friend or a foe? Do those eyes belong to a hungry tiger or a fuzzy kitten? We make snap decisions about faces. First impressions are visual impressions. And within 1/10 of a second, people will decide whether they like and trust you based on your face. So you've got a 1-inch square piece of real estate that's the most valuable piece of real estate you'll ever own. And it's on your Facebook page and it's on your LinkedIn page. And people are looking at that, and I'm amazed at the number of salespeople who waste this space with pictures of their car, or pictures of their dog, or just pictures of their logo. They put all kinds of things up there, except the 2 things you need to make sure are in that picture every time, all the time. Your eyes and your teeth. Put your eyes and your teeth in your profile picture. Eye contact closes deals in real life and on LinkedIn. That can help you start creating an army of people who know, like, and trust you. We got one other tip. Just make sure when you're doing this, you don't try to come off like a big shot online. People can smell when you're being a phony. People can smell when you're trying to puff yourself up, when you're trying to be something you're not. They can smell it here in the networking meeting. They can smell it online. They can smell it like bad cheese. So always be exactly who you are. In words of Tyler Durden from Fight Club, sticking feathers up your butt doesn't make you a chicken.